Hello, dear students. In the last period, we have studied about the finding of or the estimating the covalent radius as well as the metallic radius. In case of the covalent radius, we take the covalent molecule. So the atoms are bonded with the covalent bond. Then, by using the spectroscopical or X-ray diffraction method, we find out the distance between the two atoms, and then we halve the distance between the two atoms and we get the covalent radius. So the covalent radius is the half of the distance between two atoms when they are bound together by a single bond in a covalent molecule. This is what is the definition for the covalent radius. We can even understand the metallic radius. Metallic radius can be understood by using the electron C model for the metal crystals, which represents the metal kernel as well as the electron, which are also known as the conducting electrons as well as the valence electron. So when we want to find out the metallic radius, we determine the internuclear distance separating the metallic core by using the spectroscopical method or by X-ray diffraction, and then we halve this distance, and this is how we get the metallic radius. So the definition of the metallic radius would be half the internuclear distance separating the metallic core in metallic crystal is called the metallic radius. So this is how, my dear students, we understand about the metallic radius and covalent radius. These are this after this understanding these two type of radius, now we should study about the another type of radius, which is known as the van der Waals radii. So atom of noble gases which do not make either covalent or metallic bond, they prefer to remain monoatomic. So radii for this element are actually non-bonded radii. For example, we think of the argon. There are two argon atoms. These argon atoms, they are neither overlapped but are not touched. They also maintain some distance into the space. So we try to make or the minimum distance between the two argon molecule which are monoatomic. So we can say two argon atoms that is found into the space. So we choose the minimum distance whenever it is possible between the two argon atoms, and then this distance, or then by taking that minimum distance between the two argon atoms, the distance between the center of this argon atom has been measured by using the spectroscopical method or X-ray diffraction, and then, my dear students, this distance is being halved, and this is how we determine the van der Waals radius. So this radius or van der Waals radius is always greater than the atomic radius. Atoms of noble gases which do not make either covalent bond or metallic bond, they prefer to remain monoatomic. So radii of these elements are actually non-bonded radii. For example, we have argon. The distance between the closest approach means the minimum, like the most close these argon atom comes to each other. The distance between the closest approach of two non-bonded atoms of argon is 142 picometers. Half the distance, half the distance between these two atoms, half the distance between these two atoms, that we can understand, my dear students, that half the distance between the closest approach of the two non-bonded atoms of argon is equal to 142 divided by 2 picometer, that is 170, that is 71 picometer, and this 71 picometer is considered as the van der Waals radii for this argon. So definition of the van der Waals radii could be half the distance between the closest approach of two non-bonded atoms of given element is called the van der Waals radius. The value of van der Waals radius is always bigger than the atomic radii because van der Waals radius is non-bonded radius. We should not compare van der Waals radius with the atomic radius. because we should not compare the van der Waals radius with the atomic radius, that is the either covalent radius or metallic radius, because van der Waals radius is measured for non-bonded atoms, and thus the value of van der Waals radius is very high, but in atomic radius the value is calculated for bonded atoms, which includes the overlap of orbitals, so it is always small. Thus we should not compare the van der Waals radius with the atomic radius. Please remember, my dear students, you may be asked this question, that why we have not been comparing the van der Waals radius with the atomic radius, or why the radius of inert gases are very high as compared to the other element, because the radius of the inert gases are measured as a van der Waals radius, and the value of the van der Waals radius is always more than the value of the atomic radius. Either it may be the covalent radius, or it may be the metallic radius. Now we are going to study the atomic radii in picometer across the period. You can see that in period we have lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen and fluorine. Remember, my dear students, that we have not here considered the neon, because for neon we measure the van der Waals radii, and it is going to be very high for this, and we will not compare the van der Waals radii with the atomic radii. So the atomic radius for lithium, like going left to right, 152 picometer, 111 picometer, 88 picometer, 77 picometer, 70 picometer, 74 picometer, 72 picometer. You can easily understand that going left to right, my dear students, the radius is found to be decreasing. You can see even into the graph which is just next to it, it is given that the atomic radius which is given on the y-axis and the atomic number which is given on the x-axis. You can easily see the fall of the graph from lithium to beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen. There is sudden or a slight increase into the oxygen, and again the atomic radius falls into the fluorine. So overall, or in general, we can say that as the atomic number increases, the value of the value of atomic radius decreases. Same way for sodium, magnesium, aluminum, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, and chlorine. We can even see that 186 to 143 to 110 to 99. The atomic radius decreases as we move left to right. Please note that atomic radius of noble gas has not been considered because they are the van der Waals radii. Now we are going to study the atomic radii in picometer down the group. So down the group, if we go up to down in a particular group, what happens to the atomic radii? Let us look at. For group 1, we have lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium and cesium. Atomic radius are 152, 186, 231, 244, 262. My dear students, here we can easily understand and see that as we go down the group, the value of the radius in picometer increases step by step, and as the value increases step by step, we can say that going down the group, atomic radius increases. Same way when we look at the group number 17, we have fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine and astatine. Their atomic radius of fluorine 72, chlorine 99, bromine 114, iodine 133 and astatine 140. So going down the group, the atomic radius increases. That is what we can have the generalized statement for the going down the group, the atomic radii. Atomic radii of noble gas have not been considered because noble gases are measured van der Waals radius, and van der Waals radius is not compared with the atomic radius. So atomic radius, suppose you are asked that while comparing the atomic radius, why didn't we consider the radius of the inert gas? You can answer this question that atomic radii of noble gases have not been considered because noble gases are measured the van der Waals radius, and van der Waals radius is always greater than the atomic radii, or we can say van der Waals radius is greater than the atomic radius, and that is why their radius has not been compared. From the table, we can plot the graph of atomic radius versus the atomic number, and that we have seen already for a particular period. Now we'll move to the next. From the graph and table, we realize that atomic size generally decreases across the period as illustrated. And number 2, in a family or in a group, going down the group, atomic size or atomic radius increases. So this is how we can truly understand about the atomic radius, how changes into the group, how changes into the period. The atomic size generally decrease across the period. Now why this atomic size decreases across the period? Let us try to understand the reason. Within the period, the outer electrons are in the same shell. If you move in the period from left to right, the principal quantum number does not increases, and that is why the electrons are filled in the same shell, or sometimes the electron goes into the inner shell. This is what it is observed. As the atomic number increases, nuclear charge increases, because as the atomic number increases, more number of protons are being added into the nucleus. So each time when a atomic number increases, one proton increases inside the nucleus. So total charge of nucleus also increases. Thus, as atomic number increases, nuclear charge increases, which attracts, when the nuclear charge increases, it attracts the electrons far better. So, which attracts the valence electron more strongly. So, increased nuclear charge will attract the valence electron more strongly. Thus, the atomic size or atomic radius contracts or decreases. So, more number of electrons and more number of protons, they attracts more strongly. More number of protons attracts more number of electrons strongly. So, the atomic size decreases, and this is how the atomic radius also decreases, and thus increase in nuclear pool decreases the size into a period if we go left to right. Same way what happens when we go down the group. So going down the group, the atomic size increases. Let us try to see what is the reason that going down the group atomic size increases. Going down the group atomic size increases because as we descend the group, as we go down the group, the periodic quantum number n increases. So the valence electrons are filled farther as we go down the group from the nucleus. As we go down the group, for each step, each time the principal quantum number increases. As the principal quantum number increases, the filled electrons goes into the higher shell. Principal the electron filled are goes into the higher energy level. The electrons filled or the last electron filled goes to the farther from the nucleus. The electron field have the distance from the nucleus increased each time when we move down the group. So the valence electrons are filled farther as we go down the group from the nucleus. As we know, my dear students, that the inner electrons shield the nuclear charge. So the electron present between the nucleus and the last filled electron are considered the inner nucleus, and this inner nucleus screen the nuclear charge, and the last filled electron does not fill the exact nuclear charge that is being present into the nucleus. This effect is called screening or shielding. So this inner electron screen or shield the nuclear charge, and the outer electron does not experience the electron charge completely, and nuclear charge. So as we know, in inner electron shield the nuclear charge, and nuclear charge is experienced less by the outer electron, which causes relaxation from the nuclear pool. So nuclear pool is not experienced enough. There is a relaxation into the experience of the nuclear pool, and thus the size of the atom increases, and that is why going down the group, my dear students, the size of the atom or the radius of the atom increases. Now, my dear students, we have understood the various patterns, how the atomic radius increases going down the group, how the atomic radius decreases from going left to right. Now we are going to study about the ionic radius. So, we have two type of ion. One is known as cation. The removal of electron or electrons from an atom results in the formation of cation. A cation is always smaller than its parent atom. Now, why cation is smaller than its parent atom? Because cation has fewer electrons, while its nuclear charge remains the same. When cation is formed, the electron has been removed, so the number of electrons inside the atom decreases. When from atom an ion is formed, but the proton are in the same number. Proton has not been removed. That is why the nuclear charge is higher as compared to the neutral atom. So cation has fewer electrons while its nuclear charge remains the same, which causes increased pull from the nucleus. Ultimately, the decrease in size is observed when cation is formed. Let us understand the decrease in size with an example. Atomic radius of sodium atom is 186 picometer, while the ionic radius of the sodium ion is only 95 picometer. My dear students, from sodium atom, when sodium ion is formed, the radius has been decreased to a great extent. From 186, it is just turned into 95 picometer. Same way, anion. The gain of one or more electron or electrons by an atom, the new species formed is called anion. So anion is the atom where the atom has got negative charge on it. Thus the species formed is called anion. Anion is formed by gaining of electron. Anion is bigger in size than the parent atom. So anion is always bigger in size than the parent atom. Why? What is the reason that this anion is found to be bigger in the for the parent atom? Let us try to understand, my dear students, the reason for the bigger anion. The addition of one or more electron would result in increased repulsion among the electron. The atom was having some electron and the same number of protons are present into the nucleus. From outside, we add the another electron. This electron, the extra electron field inside an atom, feel a repulsion from the electron that were already present into an atom, and this repulsion among the electron, due to repulsion, the size of an atom expands. So newly added electron filled repulsion, and as repulsion causes the expansion of an atom, and that is why the anion is always having bigger size than the parent atom. Let us understand the bigger size with an example. Atomic size of fluorine is 72 picometer, whereas the ionic radius of fluorine is 136 picometer. You can see that when fluorine atom is there, the size is or the radius is 72 picometer only. But when the fluorine ion is formed, the radius, ionic radius is 136 picometer. Now, if we observe the ionic or atomic radii of different isoelectronic species, what is isoelectronic species? They are the species which have the same number of electrons. We understand the above fact very well. So if we take the example of some of the isoelectronic species and we measure their ionic radius, then or compare their ionic radius with the atomic radius, we would come to know about the change into the radius. The order of size for the isoelectronic species O2 minus F minus 1, Na plus 1, Mg plus 2, 10 electrons would be. Remember, my dear students, that O2 minus F minus Na plus and Mg plus 2, all these species have only 10 electrons. So they have 10 electrons, but their nuclear charge are different. Now, the order of increasing ionic size would be magnesium plus 2. Though the atomic number is higher, the atomic number of magnesium is 12, atomic number of sodium is 11, atomic number of fluorine is 9, atomic number of oxygen is 8. So oxygen has 8 proton in the nucleus, fluorine has got 9 proton in the nucleus, sodium has got 11 proton in the nucleus, magnesium has got 12 proton in the nucleus. This proton attracts the electron very well, and that is why as the atomic number increases, the atomic size decreases. O minus 2, which is being a negative ion, which has 2 electron added, this added 2 electron fill the maximum repulsion, and that is why the highest or the longest ionic radii we can find for oxygen, then for fluorine, then for sodium, and then for magnesium. So the more is the charge, the smaller is the ionic radii for the isoelectronic species. And the more is the negative charge, the more longer will be the ionic radii for the isoelectronic species. So this is the general rule we can develop for the isoelectronic species. Now let us understand the same set by solving some problem. Consider the following species: N-3, O-2, F-1, Na+1, Mg+2, Al+3. What is common in them? Arrange them in the increasing order of their ionic sizes. So here we are given some of the species. We will have to find out what is common in them. At the same time, we will have to arrange them into the increasing order of their ionic radii. So let us try to understand them well. Now look at the various species given. We have nitrogen, atomic number 7, but we get N-3, so 3 electrons are being added. So total number of electrons are 7 plus 3, that is 10. In oxygen, the atomic number is 8, but we make O-2, so 2 electrons are being added, that is why 8 plus 2, so 10 electrons are being formed. Same way, fluorine, atomic number Z is equal to 9, we make F-1, 1 electron is being added, so total number of electrons become 10. Same way, sodium, Z is equal to 11, but from sodium, Na+1 is formed, 1 electron is being removed, so the total number of electrons in Na+1 would be 11 minus 1, that is 10 electrons. Mg plus Mg, Z is equal to 12, so total 12 electrons are present. When from Mg plus 2 is being formed, 2 electrons are being removed, so the total number of electrons in Mg plus 2 would be 12 minus 2, that is 10 electrons. Aluminium, atomic number is 13, so total 13 electrons are present in aluminium neutral atom. When from aluminium plus 3 is formed, 3 electrons are being removed, so total number of electrons present in aluminium plus 3 would be 13 minus 3, that is equal to 10. So we had a first question, that what is common in them. Now we can answer this question, what is common in them, that all the species which are given into the question, which are all the species given into the question: N-3, O-2, F-1, Na+1, Mg+2, Al+3. All these species have same number of electrons and they are known as the isoelectronic species. Now we have to arrange them into increasing order of their ionic radii. So we have the rule. What is the rule? More is the negative charge, bigger is the size for the isoelectronic species. Remember, more is the positive charge, lesser is the size for the isoelectronic species. So increasing order of ionic radii, we can write Al plus 3 is smaller than Mg plus 2, Mg plus 2 is smaller than sodium plus 1, sodium plus 1 is smaller than F minus 1, F minus 1 is smaller than O minus 2, O minus 2 is smaller than N minus 3. This is how, my dear students, we can understand it well. Next question, what is isoelectronic species? Name the species which is isoelectronic with F-1, Ar, Mg plus 2 and rubidium plus 1. So first of all, we need to give the definition of isoelectronic species. Those species which are having the same number of electrons, they are known as the isoelectronic species. We need to write, sorry my dear students, we need to write the isoelectronic species for F-1, argon, Mg plus 2 and Rb plus 1. So first of all, we need to find out the total number of electrons present into these various species. So in F-1 we have 10 electrons, in argon we have 18 electrons, in Mg plus 2 we have 10 electrons, and in rubidium we have 36 electrons. Now rubidium atomic number is 37, magnesium atomic number is 12, but rubidium is plus 1, so 1 electron is being removed, and that is why the total number of electrons are 36. Magnesium atomic number 12, 2 electrons are removed, so total number of electrons are 10. Fluorine atomic number is 9, but F minus 1, so 1 electron is being added, and that is why the total number of electrons are 10. You can see that in fluorine F minus 1 and Mg plus 2, they have same number of electrons, so they are isoelectronic species, and that is why for F minus we can write isoelectronic species Mg plus 2, and for Mg plus 2 we can write isoelectronic species F minus 1. In argon we have 18 electrons. Now I have written the isoelectronic species for argon is Cl minus. In Cl minus, if we look at the parent Cl atom, total number of electrons are 17. But when chlorine atom becomes Cl minus, 1 electron is being added. So total number of electrons are 17 plus 1, and that is why 18 electrons are present in Cl minus, which is isoelectronic with the argon. Same way, my dear students, we have an inert gas which is known as the krypton, where its atomic number is 36. Rubidium plus 1 is also 36, having 36 electron, and that is why krypton is isoelectronic with the rubidium plus 1 ion. This is how we can answer the various questions, my dear students. Now we are going to study about the new definition, and this new definition is the definition of the ionization enthalpy. So my dear students, now we are going to study about the new term or a new property, which is also a periodic property. So let us try to understand the definition of ionization enthalpy. Let me read the definition for you. The amount of energy required to remove the electron from the outermost orbital of an isolated gaseous atom in its ground state. My dear students, here we can add one important thing here, that instead of just only uh, isolated gaseous atom, we should write here the neutral. So instead of just writing the isolated, we should write it this way: the amount of energy required to remove the electron from the outermost orbital of an isolated neutral gaseous atom in its ground state is known as the ionization enthalpy. Please remember that here it is better if we add the word neutral. But as it is not written in the book, I have not written for you. So even if you write the same definition, it is okay. But it's better if you add the word neutral here. This ionization enthalpy is denoted by delta IH. Delta IH is the representation for writing the ionization enthalpy. So this is how, my dear students, we uh, understand the definition of this particular uh, term. Now we are going to study about the uh, about something in detail about the ionization energy. So let us study about the ionization energy in detail, my dear students. Let us look at this. See, here in this page I have added the word neutral. So again I am going to read the definition for ionization enthalpy. The amount of energy required to remove the electron from the outermost orbital of an isolated neutral gaseous atom in its ground state is known as the ionization enthalpy. Ionization enthalpy is denoted by delta IH. The definition written above is actually the definition of first ionization enthalpy. So let us write, or which is denoted by delta IH1. So let us read the first ionization enthalpy definition. The amount of energy required to remove an electron from the outermost orbital of an isolated gaseous neutral atom in its ground state is called the first ionization enthalpy, denoted by delta IH1. You know, when the following reaction takes place, the energy required is known as the first ionization enthalpy. If X is an element, then in the gaseous state of X, if we remove one electron, the element turns into gaseous ion X plus 1. The amount of energy needed is known as the first ionization enthalpy. Now we'll move and understand the second ionization enthalpy. So the definition for second ionization enthalpy, my dear student, is the amount of energy required to remove second most loosely bounded electron. The amount of energy required to remove second most loosely bounded electron from unipositive gaseous ion. Please remember, Now we are going to remove the electron from the unipositive gaseous ion. So the amount of energy required to remove the electron from unipositive gaseous ion of an element is called the second ionization enthalpy, delta IH2. So now we have the unipositive ion, unipositive gaseous ion, X plus 1 gas. We provide some energy, delta IH2, so that X plus 1 gas turns into X plus 2 gas. Remember, it is X plus 2 gas, and one electron is being removed. This energy is known as the second ionization enthalpy. Now we are going to study about the third ionization enthalpy. The amount of energy required to remove the third most loosely bound electron from the di-positive gaseous ion is called the third ionization enthalpy, denoted by delta IH3. You can easily understand, my dear students, that now in the case of the third ionization enthalpy, we need to remove the electron from the di-positive gaseous ion. So, to the di-positive gaseous ion X plus 2, we provide the energy delta IH3 so that X plus 2 gaseous ion turn into X plus 3 gaseous ion and one electron is being removed. This energy that we need to provide to convert di-positive gaseous ion X plus 2 to tri-positive gaseous ion X plus 3, we need to give some energy. This energy is known as the third ionization enthalpy. The ionization enthalpy is expressed in the unit kilojoule per mole. My dear students, we will mostly express the ionization enthalpy in the unit of kilojoule per mole. It is difficult to remove electron from di-positive ion as compared to unipositive ion. It is very easy, my dear students, to understand that if an atom is having the charge of plus 2 and then even having such a huge charge, we want to remove an electron, we need to provide more energy, and that is why it is difficult to remove the electron from di-positive ion as compared to the unipositive ion. Same way we can even say that it is difficult to remove electron from unipositive ion as compared to the isolated gaseous neutral atom. So it is easy to remove the electron from the isolated gaseous neutral atom as compared to remove the electron from unipositive ion. And it is same way we can even understand that to remove electron from unipositive ion, it will be easy as compared to the remove electron from the di-positive ion. So we can easily say, my dear students, from this concept we can say that because as a positive charge increases, the effective nuclear charge affects the electron more strongly and thus difficult to remove new electron. Uh, as the charge increases, the pull towards the last loosely bound electron also increases, and that is why it is difficult to remove the new electrons. That is why the order of first, second, and third ionization enthalpy can be written as the third ionization enthalpy is always greater than the second ionization enthalpy, and second ionization enthalpy is always greater than the first ionization enthalpy. This is how we can understand about the value of the or order of the ionization enthalpy. If not specified, see, you are reading some book and you are not mentioned whether it is the first ionization enthalpy, it is the second ionization enthalpy, it is the third ionization enthalpy, but they have just written the word ionization enthalpy. So, if it is not specified, if they have written just the word ionization enthalpy, this word just ionization enthalpy represents the first ionization enthalpy. I hope, my dear student, you understand. Let me repeat it once again for you. If not specified, the term ionization enthalpy represents the first ionization enthalpy. Now here, my dear students, you can see one graph I have plotted for you. The graph represents the change in the first ionization enthalpy with increase in the atomic number for second period. You know, my dear students, that in second period we have few elements like lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, and neon are present. We have plotted a graph of ionization enthalpy versus the atomic number. We can see that as the atomic number increases, the ionization enthalpy increases from lithium to beryllium, beryllium to boron decreases, boron to carbon increases, carbon to nitrogen increases, nitrogen to oxygen decreases, oxygen to fluorine increases, fluorine to neon increases. This is what we can easily understand. There are two anomalies. Going beryllium to boron, the ionization enthalpy decreases. Going nitrogen to oxygen, the ionization enthalpy decreases. Please remember this fact. Now we'll move to the next graph. Change in the first ionization enthalpy for alkali metals in a group. Now we are going to study the ionization enthalpy for the alkali metal in a group. First we have seen the change in the ionization enthalpy in a period. Now we are going to study the change in the ionization enthalpy in a group. Let us observe how the change we can observe. You can see, my dear students, here that in the graph, as the atomic number increases, we move from lithium to sodium, sodium to potassium, potassium to rubidium, rubidium to cesium. So going lithium to potassium, the ionization enthalpy decreases. From sodium to potassium, lithium to sodium, ionization enthalpy decreases. From sodium to potassium, it decreases. From potassium to rubidium, it decreases. From rubidium to cesium, it decreases. So going down the group, the ionization energy value decreases. This is the general fact that we can remember. Now here in this graph, I have expressed you, this is a very interesting graph, my dear students, that in this graph, I have expressed you the variation of the ionization enthalpy, variation of the first ionization enthalpy across the variation of the first ionization enthalpy, delta IH1, with the atomic number from element Z is equal to 1 to Z is equal to 60. You can see on the x-axis we have taken the first 60 elements. On the y-axis we have taken the first ionization enthalpy delta IH1, and we have drawn the graph for first 60 element, which was started from hydrogen, then helium, then again lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, neon, sodium, magnesium, aluminum, silicon, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, argon, potassium, calcium, sulfur, chlorine, argon, again potassium, calcium, scandium, titanium, vanadium, chromium, manganese, iron, cobalt, nickel, copper, zinc, and gallium, germanium, arsenic, selenium, bromine, krypton, then rubidium, strontium, yttrium, zirconium, niobium, molybdenum, technetium, ruthenium, rhodium, palladium, silver, cadmium, indium, tin, antimony, tellurium, iodide, and then xenon, then cesium, barium, lanthanum, and cerium. So this is how we have arranged the change into the ionization energy, and we can see that the lowest or the minima, we can see that for lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium. This lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, and cesium are the elements that belong to the group number 1. They are called the alkali metals. The maxima, if we look at, we can see that the maximum value for the first ionization enthalpy that we can see for the helium, neon, argon, krypton, and xenon. These are the elements that belong to the group number 18, and these elements are called the inert gas elements. So the maximum value for ionization enthalpy is with the inert gases, whereas the minimum value for the ionization enthalpy is for the alkali metals, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, and cesium. Going from group number 1 to group number 18, we can generally say that the value of first ionization enthalpy decreases. But again, you can see some falls. It is not that the regular increase or decrease have been seen. Like see from between lithium to neon, we have 2 falls. Between sodium to argon, we have 2-3 falls. Between potassium to krypton, there are various falls and rise, falls and rise, falls and rise we can observe. From rubidium to xenon also there are fall and rise, fall and rise, fall and rise we can observe, and that is why the increase in the ionic increase into the ionization enthalpy is not smooth. There are variation, but in general we can say that going from group number 1 to going in, group number 18, the ionization enthalpy value in general increases. The first ionization enthalpies of element having the atomic number up to 16 are plotted in the above figure. We find maxima at the noble gases which have closed electron shell and very stable electronic configuration. So we find maximum ionization enthalpy for noble gases. Someone asks you why. So we can express that we find maxima at the noble gases, or the ionization enthalpy for noble gases is very high because these elements have closed electron shell and the electron shell is very stable, and that is why their electronic configuration is very stable, and that is why it is difficult to remove electron. So to remove electron, maximum amount of energy is needed, and that is why we find that the first ionization enthalpy of the inert gases is maximum. We find minima at the alkali metals. Why? Why we get the minimum energy for the alkali metals, or minimum ionization enthalpy for alkali metals? The minimum energy for the alkali metals can be seen because their low ionization enthalpy are correlated with the high reactivity. These alkali metals are highly reactive. They have only one electron filled after the stable electronic configuration of inert gases. The electron goes into the higher shell or higher energy level, which is very unstable. So the electron is loosely bound, which can easily be removed. And as electron can be easily removed by providing the very small amount of energy, we can say that the ionization energy for the alkali metal is very small. Same way, my dear students, we can understand that the first ionization enthalpy increases as we go across the period, and first ionization enthalpy decreases as we go down the group. And this is how, my dear students, we can increase about the we can understand about the change into the ionization enthalpy for for uh, for the various as we go down the group or as we go across the period. So my dear students, we can understand these changes, we can understand the ionization enthalpy well. The next part we will study into the next period. I hope, my dear students, you are enjoying studies. You can ask me if you have any doubts on my WhatsApp number even. Thank you and have a nice day.